Hello.
Hello, Ben.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
Hello, Ben. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yep. Yeah, alive and kicking.
Good, well done. Okay, Ben. Listen, just by way of an update, I've had a look at um, the stuff that was disclosed to you. Um,
At which point?
Sorry.
At which point?
So I've had some correspondence from Darren Humphreys, who's the public access officer from the Joint Information Management Unit.
Right. Yeah.
And he said that you've had a disclosure at the end of May. Is that correct?
I can't remember the exact date. Yeah, it was a few days after you phoned me originally, Nick.
Right. Okay. So he said that he's had a review. So what I got the professional standards department to disclose to him everything that we've got on file in relation to you, obviously. And then he's then had a look. Then he's done a review of what was disclosed to you, and then he said that everything that basically Thames Valley Police have got has been disclosed and forwarded to you.
Okay. Do you want me to comment on that?
Yeah.
Okay. That is categorically untrue.
Okay.
There are letters I have scans of and hard copies of that were sent to me by Thames Valley Police. There are whole chunks of correspondence not on there. So a lot of the Sierra Reid stuff, when I was originally asking her as the name who got involved for copies of stuff, letters that were sent to me with such things as why, what do you want it for, and oh, I've had a good look and we can't find anything, and all this kind of stuff, which, as you know, a lot of what I'm concerned about is not just that what was written on file was untrue, but that when I had asked for access to this stuff, I was told, and borrowing from the wording of the Act, I'd been told things like the data officer has had made a reasonable effort, only to later discover, and I mean as I got that impoverished amount at the time,
Right.
I was in and of itself, intrinsically, that was a profound shortfall. But then, as I explained to you the other day, on a later date, when I saw the material that had been sent to my ex-partner, which was voluminous in comparison, and not just that which was sent, but the way it was responded to, I got why, what do you want it for, and she got a what, anything else we can help you with, let you know. So I found such partisanship fairly contrary to the legislation, but not only that. So I've that stuff isn't on it. Stuff I've got, like when I've asked for complaints to be looked at, and I've had letters saying, "Oh, it would be impractical to investigate this now," and things like that. That
Right.
stuff isn't on there. There's stuff from Naren Sawmire was sent that's not on there. There's
Sorry, there was. Sorry.
hang on. So
Sorry, what was that last bit? There was
I don't think the stuff from Naren Sawmire originally is on that bundle you sent this time. The other one is I on that correspondence, which mostly seems to be what I've sent you guys. There's all of the names, fairly churlishly, all of the names of anybody at your end has been electronically tipexed. So what's been said? If I was to give that bundle to a lawyer or the ICO or anybody like that, it's been. I mean, I feel sorry for whoever had to take the time to do all that. But
Yeah,
like,
I know,
and that's it's a cynical and not in good faith gesture, Nick, because I'm making you guys aware. I'm speaking to you and you know about this, and my complaints, which have been. So not only have the matters which I was originally complaining about not been addressed, but the way those complaints were responded to was utterly inappropriate. And now, when you send that, like, the subject data access response, which is by no means my first, the what is sent is not at all containing everything I've received previously from you guys. It's conveniently taken out most of the stuff, which in my conversation to you, I highlighted as being problematic, which in itself, which in itself is suspicious. A cynical individual, Nick, would, well, as I said to you when you first phoned me, I had no complaint in the pipe. So you phone, like what I did have in the pipe was a subject data access request. I've been asking for this to be looked at for coming up on 6 years now from Thames Valley. And not only have my complaints not been investigated, but at one point when I submitted a complaint, more accurately, when Sarah Harper put a complaint in for me, I had letters back to me accusing me that my use of the complaint system was abusive and harassment. Curiously, that's not in the bundle you've sent me either, Nick. So, my point is, if you just allow me to finish, mate. Sorry, my point being, Nick. So my point being is that as a statement of absolute fact, no, not at all, is what I've been sent in May, if that's when it was, the most recent subject data access release. That no, not at all, is that everything I've got. I myself, with what I have left, as I'd said to you guys, rather suspiciously, I had a folder taken from a vehicle of mine that had a lot of that stuff in. But I still have a lot of that stuff. I wasn't completely without what I did have. So you guys have sent, which is the reason I asked for the release again, and definitely intrinsically not at all has it got, I mean, most of the correspondence I've had from you guys at all. Point two is suspiciously most of the stuff that I've spoken to you about where I'm raising the problem is definitely not in it. And as a generic protocol, any and all people's names that I refer to or sign anything or it's written to are deleted. There is no legal. I'm talking to you about these people's names. I'm asking for correspondence that was originally sent to me. So if I write to somebody who's in public office, who's a member of Thames Valley Police, officer or admin staff, and those people write to me in their accountable, honest, professional position, and they sign a letter sent to me originally, not them as an individual from their private home, they are at work in that office, right? When they write to me, when I ask for copies of that correspondence, I cannot see anything other than an unfair and in bad spirited approach to delete everybody's names from that correspondence. It's absurd given that you've sent me that correspondence before.
So do you mean the fact that they redacted it?
On this third point I'm making, the specific the redaction of the names, and it's in the Dear X, and yours sincerely X, and X is mentioned, no pun on X given the original basis for this, but give it. So that, Nick, is not just not proper. It's not just without legal basis. It's outright cynical and kind of makes my point for me, Nick. Do you know what I mean? I would not wish to be unkind and say that my interpretation of you phoning me originally on the kind of eve of, corona extension or not, when I was, it was a few days you had left to send that subject data access request. You phoned me up, nominally in good faith to sort of look at this.
Please believe me, it wasn't good faith. I know you've mentioned in your email to me about being corrupt or that sort of thing, but
can you understand what I'm saying about? So as I was saying it, if you need to write this down, please do, mate. So one, the simply what is in that, subject data access, but is absolutely not at all everything that I have been sent at all. And it just previously, not only that, but it's not just randomly a short for. It's very specifically omitting the letters that were the most indicative of wrongdoing on Thames Valley Police's part, specifically wrongdoing in terms of the compliance department. Okay, so literally every single thing I spoke to you about, shit from Western, shit from Sierra Reed, all that is either omitted as a letter, or when I'm sent stuff now, people's names are involved. I have put in complaints about the complaints department, and in this subject data access request response you send me, the people involved's names are now rather churlishly cut out. I cannot interpret that, Nick, as anything other than cynical and in bad faith, and quite frankly, avoidant. Because, do you know what I mean? If I was to give that set of documents to any kind of accountable, any kind of thing that would seek to hold you guys accountable, if that was to be presented as a bundle in court, if that was to be given to the data commissioners people up in Wilmslow, if that was to be given to a judge, that would be interpreted as a cynical gesture on you guys' behalf. So I make no secret as to not agreeing with your statement of you've been sent everything we've got. Yeah.
Well, no, all I'm saying is,
yeah.
I'm just telling you that what I've been told from Darren Humphreys, who's the public access officer. That's all. So.
Okay, but I mean, I'm. You understand? Do you understand the points I'm making and why I'm making them, Nick? Right. Okay.
I do.
Right. What else do you have to tell me?
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put all this in writing to you, okay? As to what found. What I'm going to put a timeline in writing. So I'm going to write to you a letter with the sort of timeline of what's gone on, what my interpretation of the disclosure that's been made to you, okay? And then you can respond, and then Sarah Harper, who's one of the misconduct managers, she can then you'll have a right to review it, because I'm not going to reinvestigate everything that's happened, because that's not my remit.
Okay, you seem to be limiting this. You seem to be limiting this, Nick, to you're simply commenting now on the subject, on the quality or not of the subject data response I got in May, which is peculiar because you're now returning, as whatever your function was, you're now returning that comment about that. Yet you rang me before I had been sent that material. So you ring me, if you just allow me to finish, Nick, you rang me before I had got the impoverished or otherwise, deceitfully edited or otherwise response.
No.
Hang on. So let me clarify this, Nick, because I do think this is important. You rang me, right? I was at my grandma's. I just finished wiping a bloody bum, right? You rang me, yeah. You rang me, mate, and we had that. I think it was 57 minutes, right? You rang me. We had that conversation. You rang me, mate, before I had received the latest version of the subject of what you guys sent me. So that's you're correct. Feeding back to me now. That's correct. So you're feeding back to me now, like as the return of whatever it is you found to achieve. You're commenting on that response. Now at that point, I hadn't received that response, and seemingly, presumably, your involvement wasn't about my dissatisfaction with that response, because I hadn't received that response. So you phoned me prior to
your dissatisfaction, as I understood it, was the fact that you haven't received full disclosure.
No, that absolutely not at all. Not at all, Nick. That was but one factor of several things I mentioned to you. Absolutely. Yeah. That's not at all what this was about at all. Like that is a successive and subsequent gripe I have, and it's entirely sort of idiomatic of the rest of this, but not at all is that the only. As I specifically said to you on the phone, Nick, my original problems, the fact that I was spoken to in a sort of, you know, as if my guilt and awfulness was a fait accompli by officers and all that stuff, that's which was originally the basis for my concerns. That's so the smaller factor of this now, Nick. Well, you know, I've spoken to you. I've made mention of the following. That uniformed warrant card holding officer, i.e. Naren Sormai, phoned my family, my mother, herself a former police officer, spoke to her that he made reference to corruption. He made reference to private mobile phone use arranging vehicles, which, right, okay, okay. At the same time when he spoke to me, we were told that he told us that Thames Valley Police, that they were very sorry, that yes, maybe they got the wrong end of the stick about a few things, but that it was all okay now. So I was instructed, at that point, my final interaction with TVP was that, yes, Ben, we understand that, yeah, maybe some things were said to you. Naren Sormai himself had said, yeah, it was all very suspicious. Miss Pentilla couldn't really talk for herself. There were people screaming for Ben's arrest. I couldn't see the point of their involvement. His exact words, Nick, it was like a cult. So he was saying all these things. Yes, I was actually quite concerned. He himself said I'd actually asked Miss Pentilla to send a message to Bennett that if she didn't want to speak. So he said to us, he specifically said, that he said to Miss Pentilla, look, if you don't want Ben contacting, we've looked into this, Ben. He told us that, Ben hasn't been aggressive. He hasn't done this. As I understand it, you haven't even told Ben not to contact you. And he told my family, and I can remember the call, and he told us that he had got his own phone out, that he had typed on a phone, this is Sissy from Naren Sormai's phone. Ben, please take this as instruction not to contact me. And he'd said to her, look, all I can offer you is if you press send on this, that now counts as you having been instructed not to speak to, you have been instructed not to speak to Ben. And his words to us was that she refused to send it. And then all this nonsense. The final words I had of him were that, that they were sorry and that Thames Valley Police understood that his exact words, Nick, were, we've been duped. So he said to us, we've been duped. Okay. He had a bit of a telling off from my mom, an ex-copper, about, good God, don't you people use evidence.
So have you got that written down anywhere?
Hang on, let me comment, Nick. Let me finish, right? So basically, that was that. My involvement at that point with Thames Valley Police ended because I had thought, well, that was all very unpleasant, but it's the smaller picture. At least now TVP know the truth. When I later found out all of the unpleasantness that was on file, that officer, it's not just that nobody came up to me and said, Mr. Rich, this is terribly unpleasant, but we must be professional. An accusation of domestic violence has been made against you. Nobody did that. Not only that, but the version I was told by a warranted, uniformed Thames Valley Police officer was that I was all good with Thames Valley Police. He not only failed to tell me the horrors that were untrue horrors, may I add, that were written on the paperwork, in the log, on the niche, and God knows what, on the CNC. He not only failed to disclose that to me, but he put a positive top spin on it, that it was all lovely and TVP had seen the error of their ways, hiding the nonsense that was written up on the log to justify people's involvement. So, which is naturally going to make us go away. It was only when I got suspicious. And at that point, I was a little bit suspicious. I was thinking, So at that point, in the autumn of 2014, I rang your data office on the phone and I said, can I have copies of the log? And I was told, no. This is when I knew far less about this. And I was told, no. The only way you'd ever get access to any material we have on file about you is a court order. Now, that's a bit peculiar, because what they should have said is, well, certainly, Mr. Rich, there's a thing called a subject data access request. Here's the link to, I'll send you the link to how you fill one out. But don't worry. So that was that. It was only then, a couple of years after that, the appeal, when I saw the material that Miss Pentilla and friends had submitted to the court, that's got all this merry bloody unpleasantness, right, which is utterly contradictory by the way, by her evidence in court, right? And at that point then, I'm thinking, yes, I'm bloody upset about the lies that were told on oath in court, but at the same time, I'm thinking, hang on, this absolute untrue piffle has been one. Hang on, I know that name, Sierra Reid. That's the same lady that, if I can call her that, who told me Sierra Reid. So Sierra Reid, who had specifically said to me, no, we don't have any of this material on file. And yet, when I saw the paperwork that Sierra Reid had sent to Sissy, Sierra Reid had sent exactly what I was asking for some months earlier to Sissy. So, and including, the fact that it was demonstrably untrue, what was written down, that's not the point. It's still information about me. So, so all this has not been addressed, Nick. Do you know what I mean, mate? All this has not been addressed. That was my concern as well. When I spoke to, so there's this so I put in a complaint. I put in a complaint against, at that point, the officer on the seat. Yeah, and also Naren Sormai. Right, and I was told, oh well, it's too. And the original reason that was written to me, was oh, it's been too long since it's been. We don't look at stuff after 12 months. Right, you should have written to us within time. I then said, oh, hang on, I wrote to you 12 days after I wrote a bloody how many pages.
Yes, and I know that.
Yeah.
And then there was all this stuff around. Is it recorded delivery, wasn't there?
It was a recorded delivery, and the response from Thames Valley I got was that I hadn't written to them. And I said to people, in my response, so I said, Nick, it's important, you know this, I said...
I do know that.
Yeah, so I said, not only have I written to Naren Sormai, but I've had a conversation with him about his non-response to that, because when I phoned him up, and I said to him, how come you haven't responded to my letter... which I deliberately wrote, because and he said, oh, I don't, and his exact words, Nick, were, I don't have to respond to correspondence I wasn't expecting. And I said, one is, that's nonsense anyway, and two is, you can't say you weren't expecting it. In the letter you'd written me, you invited my response. So he was panicking. He was daft on the phone. He was like, he realised he was in the shit. He hung up on me. I later noticed, Nick, as I said to you on the log, he's written, Mr. Rich became emotional and hung up. As I said to you the other day, mate, do I strike you as somebody who is reluctant to talk to Thames Valley about this?
No, not at all.
6 years, mate. 6 years this has gone on. 6 years. We're dealing with a situation where a uniformed police officer has used the word corruption originally, whether he's been spoken to and shut up locker room since or whatever, but he spoke to what he knew to be former police officers, and he used the word corruption, not me, him, right? Okay, he said that private mobile phones were used to dodgily arrange that van. He was very concerned. I think his main myth was that he'd been kept out the loop, right? Okay, right? Yeah, the other boys hadn't let him play with their toys, and basically all that went on. And yet when I put in a complaint about that, Thames Valley Police don't even look at that. Now, when I used to work in prisons and forensic mental health, Nick, every now and then when something happened, even when we'd seen it happen with our own eyes, we knew nothing was dodgy, we're thinking, bloody hell, that's got to be investigated. Not because there's wrongdoing, but because given the nature of it, failure to investigate would look suspicious. You've got a situation, Nick, where officers are phoning up the families, former police families, of quote-unquote people alleged to have committed crime, and saying to them, the officers who dealt with your son, this was corruptly done, it's been wrong, it wasn't on the log, it was all this. And yet when I phoned Thames Valley up about this, your response is to kick this into the long grass. Not only that, but when I then ask for data on this, not only do you not send it me, mate, but you send it to the people who were lying to you guys in the first place. Yeah. There's this, this isn't just, if you look at what Sierra Reid's done, Nick, it's not just if you have a training exercise, oh, Sierra, how could you have done that better? It is explicitly against the Data Protection Act, what she's done. She's sent information about me for non-policing purposes to a non-policing person at a foreign address, showing partisan discrimination between me and my ex. That's not just in bad faith, it's explicitly prohibited by the legislation. Not only that, but when I make you guys aware of her criminal wrongdoing, right, your response to my complaint, which was processed by Sarah, is I get a load of nastiness back. Thames Valley Police headed paper, deliberately chosen language, I'm not stupid, calling me an abuser and a harasser for having the audacity to complain about one of yours. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that is absolutely unforgivable, Nick. That is absolutely unforgivable. You tell me now what I've done wrong by utilising my legally given right to submit a complaint to Thames Valley Police. Yeah?
No, nothing at all.
Absolutely. And to be called an abuser...
Genuinely, absolutely nothing
Right.
at all.
Given that TVP is all too aware that the false allegations made against me were one of being an abuser, right, which is precisely the basis for my objection to all of this, right? I'm a guy who worked in intimate partner violence as an area of research and stuff. You don't think that's suspicious? Knowing damn well that that's my basis of hurt, upset and complaint, I put in a complaint which is suggested, processed and submitted by Sarah. Yeah, I didn't even send it through myself. Sarah submitted it through, and the response to me to that was to call me an abuser and harasser. Do you think that's fair conduct?
Who called you that?
The response I got back in, and I think it was Western. I'll have to look it up, right? And so I then have a phone call with these people. And I'm saying, right. Hang on, and also that's twice now they've said, oh, we didn't get your letter. I wrote back. As I said to you on the phone, it was how many pages? I had a bloody migraine at the time. And given how long this is going on, mate, I'm sure you can see why. Right? Yeah. I had to employ a friend of mine to type it up. That was sent, recorded delivery to your office. I originally spoke to West. I then get this letter saying we've stopped process about your complaint, the one about Sierra, because she didn't write back to us. And I was bloody fuming because I thought, right back to you. I had to dictate it to a mate over 5 pages, and we had to record and deliver it to you. Right? Okay. That's the second time that's happened. I have a phone call with bloody Western about it. An individual who you admit is a mate of yours, right? And basically,
he's what? Sorry.
An individual you admitted was a friend of yours, right? And basically, He's not a mate
of mine. No, he's a manager.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Manager. So I've got.
Okay, I take clarification.
I haven't got I've got no vested interest in this.
Okay, but okay. If you don't consider that, okay.
I'm not arguing with you. So
okay, mate. Okay, Nick. If you don't consider that a conflict of interest, that's your perception of that. Okay, I'm not going to pick a fight with you over that. But Nick, I spoke to that guy, and I said, hang on, and he said, oh, you didn't write back to us, and I said, you know damn well I did, because it was received at the front desk of your admin. It was signed for, and then he bloody churlishly, and I told you this over the phone. He goes, oh well, it's amazing what gets lost between our front desk and our office, right? He's laughing, cracking bloody jokes, right? And I said, okay, can you CC me into the paperwork, lost confidential paperwork, like flag that you're now going to raise at what you're now being told? And he goes, oh, and he said something like, I think we both know that's not going to happen, or something stupid like that, right? Okay, right. We've now got it where, like, my original reason for this not being investigated was because, quote, oh, you didn't write to us in time. I bloody wrote to you within 12 days, right? You've lost this second letter. The fact of the matter still remains, Nick. These individuals who treated me like a piece of shit on the street, all these people who've written down lies, people who've rung me up, and one of your own was shouting corruption, and just for your own blood, to clean your own arse, you guys should investigate that, and you don't. When this eventually gets I have given you guys, I'm not against the police, Nick. My own mum and dad were in the police, right? Okay, I've given you 6 fucking years, Nick, to clean your own house with this. Right, okay, right, and you haven't, and your response has been cynical, deceitful, abusive and churlish. Not only that, but when I tell a female friend about this incident and she gets upset and misunderstands it, something else happens, right? So this shit contaminates other things, right? A load of lies get written about that. I then go, no, hang on, I've done nothing wrong. I end up very, very quickly. I didn't leave that one 2 days. I end up phoning up, saying, now look here, a chief inspector, very nice lady from British Transport Police, speaks to me, says, Mr. Rich, I'll be dead honest. We spoke to Oxford, and then it's got blown out. 2 and 2 were made to be 7 because of that, right? I put a subject data access request. British Transport Police, who were involved with all that, had an interest to base. They had a narrative interest to respond, to say, well, look at all the stuff we were told about you, Ben, be fair. So whereas you guys' interest is the opposite, you guys' interest is to keep it quiet. As a result, what they shared with me on the paperwork, right, what wasn't what you guys had shared. So only when I put in a subject data access request to a different police force who had dealings with you guys, and if I tell you about that thing, mate, your jaw will drop, the lies that were written there. And basically, right, and on that paperwork, it's got stuff like, in response to my complaint, it's got something like, oh, Mr. Rich was the kind of individual who got convicted for torture abroad. We're not, yeah. So you are you are in internal communication. You are expressing a reason for not investigating my complaint on the basis of a conviction which was bloody overturned, which was only secured in the first place because my lawyer had an hour and a half before we went into court, and we weren't allowed to talk about this Oxford crap, even though they submitted it. At my appeal, Nick, we were allowed to talk about the Oxford events, which were the sole basis. So the sole basis, this is important that you know this, the sole basis to allege criminality in the Finnish court was my involvement in Oxford. The moment we were able to talk about that, and Miss Pentilla had to ask questions about that, I was acquitted. So people keep churlishly saying, oh, well, you know, it's not our fault what happens abroad. When as a police force you send information to a foreign party that's going to get used in a court against a person, and that information was erroneously written down incorrect in the first place, and you've not allowed me to have equal access to it. Okay, Jesus Christ, Nick, I know we've left the EU, but equality of arms still stands. Yeah, equality of arms, mate. Okay, no, right. When we wrote yeah. Okay. Now, what's critically important? What's critically important is I've kept asking for this to be looked at. And people's responses are not only bullshit, but you're saying different things to me than what you've said to yourself. 5 years. If you,
so then what I've said myself.
No, not you. I'm talking TVP. The following statement, Nick. 5 years of emails, phone calls. I'm saying 5 here because this is from last year. 5 years of emails, phone calls. You name it. I've had with you guys, and including when Naren Sormai spoke to me, including when that plump dude on the road in Oxford with the dark hair and his slimmer ginger mate in the van, including when they spoke to me, right? At no point, like a bloody professional, did anybody even acknowledge any kind of suggestion or accusation of domestic violence. That was hidden from me. Okay, I've been treated like a piece. At one point, I actually said, quite in exasperation to Sarah and others, you know, I work in schools and bloody hospitals. I don't get why I'm being treated like, you know, atrociously. And only when I see the paperwork that the British Transport Police sent me, which was contaminated by, only then do I see paperwork going, you know, urgent response, domestic violence, all this stuff. So for 5 fucking years, Nick, I dealt with Thames Valley Police again and again, asking for involvement on this, right? And you guys, it's not an accident. You guys deliberately hid from me the domestic violence accusations. Okay, so much so that I had to go into court against somebody who'd give me a hug, give me a kiss, had a cough with me and arranged to meet me at a hotel. Next thing I know, I'm locked up. The amount of extra stuff I was accused of, Nick, would make you bloody sick, right? Okay, these are the people you're talking about, Nick.
I know, and I can.
Right, okay. At that point, I am ill-armed legally because I'm standing there like a bloody pillock, mate. Right, as somebody who teaches kids and wipes grandmothers' arses, I'm standing there like a pillock, right, going, I don't get why I'm being vilified here, because the wankers sat there at the bench in front of me, and there's no jury in Finland, mate, so this is very corruptible. The wankers stood in front of me, have got on a piece of paper in front of me, oh yeah, Mr. Rich is some horrible manipulator and domestic violence abuse and all this shit. I'm amazed they let me bloody smile. Do you know what I mean? Like, they just, right, and this was all, that happened because bloody Sierra Reid, because Naren Sormai wrote down a load of shit that was untrue in the first place. It's right, and because Sierra Reid, who was the data officer involved, 1, didn't give me what she should have given me, and 2, wrongly sent it to my ex-partner. Okay, there's conversation on the material that was sent to Miss Pentilla. There's references to conversations between Naren Sormai and I. That's got nothing to do with her. How is that party to her? Like I say, Nick, as I said to you on the phone, if Sierra would have gone, here you go, Ben, here's everything you want, and at the same time, she would have gone, here you go, Sissy, here's all of this, she would have had one fault against the name in that she would have disclosed stuff about me. Had she simultaneously said, no, Ben, you're not having anything, there isn't anything, and she'd done the same to Sissy, simultaneously, she would have had a fault against the name for not. She's got both. It's the worst of both worlds, Nick. It's both. Okay?
Do you know, I get where you're coming from. But
No, Nick. It's not where I'm coming from. Where I'm coming from is softening language that implies this is a perception of mine. This is objectively what has happened. Is there anything I've just told you that is objectively untrue?
I don't.
Is there anything I've just told you that is objectively untrue? That you would care? If only we confine ourselves to the conduct of Thames Valley. Okay, let's not comment on Miss Pentillo or myself. Feel free to, by the way. Right? Is there anything I've said about the conduct of Thames Valley Police that you would seek to refute?
No,
I'm giving you an opportunity, Nick, as an intelligent bloke who's looked at this. Is there any allegation I've made?
I don't know. All I know is that I can. Basically, my role is an investigating officer.
What were you asked to investigate, Nick? Be dead honest, mate.
I was investigating.
And by whom? And when?
I was asked to look at that there was no fair or legal basis. Thames Valley Police.
You've gone quiet, Nick. You put your mouth near the mic.
Sorry.
That's better, mate. Thanks.
So I was asked to say that. So basically, I was investigating. I was asked to just to review.